What's going on, everybody, and welcome to NeverLag. I'm one of your hosts, Levi G, and I am joined by the one and only, don't you dare call him Zach with a K, Zach LaGreca. Together, we aim to throw our 2 cents into the wild world of video games. If you're into it, we would love your support over on Patreon. We'll have different tiers coming soon and benefits, but for now, you would just be supporting our modest venture here. And that's over at patreon.com/neverlag. If you have no cash, it's no big deal. We appreciate you watching right here on YouTube or listening wherever the heck you get your podcasts. This week, for our very public breakdown, we are breaking down in anticipation. You see what I did there? We're breaking down our most anticipated games of 2022. A little belated. We're halfway through February, but it is what it is. So we'll have some honorable mentions of games that maybe have already come out or that we've already started. But let's talk games. So, man, 2022. It looks like the year, doesn't it?
It's quite a year. This is going to be maybe the most stacked year in video games in a long time, especially coming out of 2020, 2021, kind of the lag, pun intended, from the pandemic. There's a lot that has kind of rolled over into this year, and then there were a lot of planned games this year, and it just makes for it's honestly going to be a year that I don't quite know how I'm going to make it work with my other responsibilities in life, but
time and money both for sure. Yeah, I agree. I think 2019 through 2021 were all okay. I think they were all okay. I think 2020 gets the bad rep because that's the year, obviously this whole mess started. But honestly, retrospectively, looking back at 2020, I think 2020 is probably the best of the 3 years, ironically. But yeah, it's been a bit of a lull since 2018, I think, and I think, fingers crossed, I think it's all coming down the pipeline here this year. So we will kick things off with, first of all, January, which
should we do? Is that the honorable mentions where we talk about?
Yeah, so I guess really the only honorable mention I have, and I think that you have to start the year that we've already played or are already playing. Wow, that didn't come out right. Would be Pokemon Legends. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the one thing that didn't make it on the list simply because we've already started it.
It's hard to anticipate it while we're already playing it. So, if you're wondering where that is, that's where it went. That's about it. There wasn't a ton in January for me. So we'll head right on into February. And here we've also got some belated mentions, but I'm going to talk about them as I'm currently anticipating them and have not gotten to them. Sifu. Let's start with Sifu. We've talked a little bit about this on our news show. I have reached peak anticipation for this game since I've learned more about it since reviews came out. I wasn't terribly looking forward to it. I actually didn't even think this would be a game I would pick up. Now it's something that I've already pre-ordered the physical edition, which comes out in May, and I'm very much looking forward to getting into. How do you feel about it? You think you're actually going to play this one, or?
I do. I really think I'll play it. I don't know if it's going to end up being a game for me, if that makes sense. I don't know if it'll click with me.
If you'll beat it.
And yeah, I don't know that I will beat it. I would like to think I will, but I would like to think I'd go to the gym more often than I do. So we'll see.
It's like having a gym membership. Yeah, I pre-ordered Sifu.
I like the idea of having gone to the gym consecutively for years and looking great.
Oh my gosh.
No, the more I've learned about this, like I wasn't initially super excited about this. It wasn't, high on my list. I didn't know a whole lot about it until some more detailed information and reviews started coming out, and that has made me more interested. I will say my gaming career sounds like a way over generous term, but in my gaming experience,
illustrious gaming career.
That's right. I would say I've been progressively enjoying more difficult video games in the past few years. I've started enjoying many of the Metroidvanias recently, like Hollow Knight. But I think I'm enjoying the hard work and the payoff a little bit more, which makes me think I might enjoy this. Something
Yeah.
else that I think is, you mentioned this in our news show, but this game is a little bit shorter once you learn how to. I mean, it'll take you time to like perfect it, but the actual amount of breadth of the game is, it's really 5 levels. So the fact that this is somewhat contained, as well as the fact that it has checkpoints between each level that saves some level of progress, makes me feel like there is a decent chance that I will get through this game or make it a lot farther in this game than I did for like Returnal, which I was also excited about trying Returnal last year. The sci-fi vibes are really cool. The gameplay was actually pretty fun. But in the end, it didn't click for me because of the roguelike elements and really just needing to progress through that game in one go. It just didn't click with me, both
Yeah.
from an interest standpoint and from generally like my schedule. It was just hard to for me to click with that game. And I think Sifu has enough allowances that will allow me to break up my play a little bit more with some of these save points. Um, and the combat looks really fun, and I think the style looks just beautiful, visually stunning. So I'm excited about it. I plan to play it. I don't know if I'll end up finishing it, but I hope to.
Yeah. Agreed. The art style, um, very cool, beautiful looking game. I love what they did with just the overall style and aesthetic of the game. I think is really up my alley. Lots of vibrant colors, kind of lots of neons, different things going on, and I personally I like difficult games. I'm much more. I have been much more of that type of gamer than you. I think you're finding your way in the recent
Yeah.
year or two maybe. Um, but I'm not a fan of roguelite and roguelikes as much. I just don't. It feels like you're just trying to make a 5 hour game a 30-hour game a lot of the time, and I just don't. I'm not that guy. So, but um, I think they're doing enough things different, and there's enough of a save point feature here, which we kind of talked about previously. But the fact that it essentially saves your best, um, the least amount of deaths you've ever finished a level, it saves that as a save state, and then you can always go back to that checkpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say I start level 2 and I'd mess it all up and I die a million times, game over. I can go back to the end of level 1 and start where I started level 2. So I think that's a really cool feature.
Yeah,
Like I've
it
mentioned.
incentivizes. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It incentivizes the mastery of like getting good enough to
Yeah.
like get your age as low as possible, but then it rewards you with some level of saving. I think what was hard about Returnal is it's like,
Yeah,
let's say you
absolutely.
mastered the first 2 biomes and then you die on the third or the fourth, and then you start at the very beginning. And I know there's a couple of shortcuts and things you learn along the way, but just that, and I know again this is somewhat subjective, like this really clicks for some people, so that's great. If that's your cup of tea, that's totally fine, but generally doesn't click for me. And then just, I have kids, so it's really hard for me to find longer blocks of time to play. So anytime I can rely on some of those save points, it's really nice. But it still allows for that mastery where really you're incentivized to be as perfect at the game as possible, which I kind of like. But then once you perfect, like, you get a really low age and at level 1, you've now have that saved, and you can work on really mastering level 2. You don't
Yeah,
have to you don't have to run as much of like a triathlon.
absolutely. Yeah, I think I envision myself playing this because of the way that's designed. I think it's a really good idea. I envision myself playing this a level at a time, just like any other game. Um, playing level 1, getting through it with a terrible amount of deaths, and then going back through and replaying it again until I'm at an age I'm satisfied with, and then moving on to level 2.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I envision myself playing this. Um, yeah, and the other thing is it's not so much a roguelite or roguelike. It's not randomized, so
Mm-hmm.
everything will be in the same place every time, which you know some people may like or not like, but it does allow you to master the level and not be surprised by anything. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. Still haven't picked it up, even though it's been out now for a week. The other one that is out and I have not played yet that I'm looking forward to from February is Ollie Ollie World. I knew nothing about this franchise until this installment. Never played the original, um, but stylistically, and also the fact that it's. I mean, I love the Tony Hawk games, and this feels like the 2D Mario version of Tony Hawk, if that makes any sense. I don't know. It just looks really cool, and It's also been getting good reviews, so I fully intend to pick this up and check it out. I do hear it's my first thought was it's very arcadey, but I do hear it's actually pretty technical. Um, and you have to actually perform and land tricks and things like that. But it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about this too. I love skateboarding games. They're not like my go-to necessarily, but I feel like I played more of that as a kid. Stuff like Tony Hawk Pro Skater and Pro Skater 2. I haven't played the more recent like remake of Tony Hawk. I never got around
Oh,
to
you
it,
didn't
but
play that? Oh my
I did. It's
goodness!
still on my backlog. But I'm interested in it. I do like skateboarding games are fun because
I
I
got the
liked
platinum
skateboarding
for
as a
that game.
kid.
Just saying,
I liked skateboarding games as a kid because, I liked skateboarding, but I was not very good at it. Like I could almost do an
it's
ollie.
quite difficult.
I was really good at just destroying my shins trying to do kick flips, but it was kind of fun to like hop in and be able to do all the tricks you'd want. So this kind of calls out to like a younger gamer in me. But I like the kind of the vibe it's bringing. Like it kind of, like you said, it kind of has like a Nintendo-y, or like an Adventure Time. If you've ever seen Adventure Time,
It does have Adventure Time vibes
kind
for
of has
sure.
those vibes. It has this like kind of bubblegum candy colored palette that I feel like could be obnoxious if it was done poorly, but if you look at it, I feel like it's done really well. It has really vibrant, fun colors, and it has a very unique, distinct feel of the world from the gameplay footage that I've watched, and it looks like something I'm really excited to just dive into, and especially after like a stressful work day where I just want to kind of zone out, do some tricks, be in like kind of a happy, fun world. I'm excited about this. I don't know exactly when I'll pick it up, but it is on my list for sure.
Yeah, for me, it's something I'm gonna scope out a sale for probably, and it does feel like a Switch game, but we'll see where I end
It's
up
kind of
getting
what
it.
I'm thinking too. I feel like this will be fun to play in handheld on the go, or
Right,
I have a nice little gooseneck stand in bed so that I can like lay like in a
like a
vegetative state,
vegetable. Yeah,
play Switch, and
it's
I could
always
see
the
this being
it's always the trade off between a Switch game or a game I want to get the platinum for.
because it's like
We'll
stylistic, but
see.
it's not super highly graphical intensive
Yeah,
from what
it's
it
not
looks
a it's
like.
not a PC game.
It's
Like
not a
I don't
PC
need to.
game. And again, with the kind of with the low key, just skater happy vibes, it's the type of thing I'd love to play 30, 40 minutes of before I go to sleep and just kind of be in
Yeah,
a happy mood versus like trudging through Dark Souls and then trying to go to sleep or, something like that.
that's the best way to go to sleep.
For a
Okay,
true
so
gamer.
that's it for games that are out. From here on out, we are speculating
Hmm.
on games that we are anticipating, and they could be terrible, they could not be. Um, I have a feeling a few of these are not going to be terrible because our next one is, well, I say our. This is my list. You don't have to agree with me. Horizon Forbidden West. You probably don't even want to play that.
Nope. Prediction, it's going to be terrible. I'm just kidding. I am being intentionally obtuse. I think Horizon Forbidden West is going to be great. I loved Horizon, the original Horizon Zero Dawn. That was probably my game of the year for whatever was that 2017
Oh, you know
came
what?
out.
You know what? Okay, let's continue talking about Horizon. I meant to at the top of this discussion. I wanted to just a quick take. What's your most anticipated game of 2022?
Hmm.
Is
Probably,
it Horizon or is it something
pro-
else?
it's probably Horizon. There, apocalyptic robot dinosaurs is literally if you put it like a Venn diagram of the things I like, if it's like right in the sweet spot of all of those. I don't necessarily know that that will, in every objective sense, be the best game that comes out, but it'll probably be up there. But I would say, based on everything that calls out to me, Horizon Forbidden West is probably what I'm most excited and have been most excited about for the longest period of time. What about you?
Okay. Okay. Um, what a year. I mean, you know what's crazy? We were talking about this earlier, and I think it's insane that I think you could take the last 10 years of video games, the last decade, and then from that decade, the top 10 games to have come out, obviously very subjective. I think both Forbidden West and Elden Ring would be on that list. And they come out within a week of each other here in February, which is just, it's almost criminal, really, if you think about it, how the past 3 years we've had of things getting delayed and
Mm-hmm.
just all of that. It's insane that we're just getting these games crammed down our throat here within a 7 day
Yeah.
span in
This is
February.
you hear that Guerrilla Games, you hear that FromSoft, criminal. that you're shoving these life-changing video game
Yeah,
experiences down our throats in such
just
a short time window. How
just
dare you?
cramming beautiful video games down our
How
throats,
dare you?
and we're just like, thank you. Can we have some more,
Please,
please?
please.
It hurts so good. No. So, anyways, to get back to it, Horizon. Let's see. I think where I've landed, the problem is that my brain, with these games coming out so close to each other and them being like neck and neck with anticipation,
Yeah.
my brain has had to prioritize Horizon simply because it comes out first.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's a survival mechanic. Honestly, it's like we can't be this excited for Elden Ring right now because we have this to get through first. So I think the best way I could put it is I think I'm most anticipating Forbidden West, but at the end of the year, if I had to guess, I would say Elden Ring would be my game of the year.
Yeah.
I think both are true
Yeah.
currently.
I think that's a fair assessment for you. I think Elden Ring probably rank highly for me as well, but I think Horizon Forbidden West is the most of what I love in a variety of things. I'm starting to like more difficult games, and I think the mix of difficulty with open world, with just the general aesthetic of FromSoft games, means that I'll really enjoy Elden Ring. But I think Forbidden West is kind of the top of what I'm expecting, and
Yeah.
so
And
yeah,
not long to wait to find out. I mean, Forbidden West reviews come out on Monday, if I
and the
have my
game comes out.
information correct. So
Yeah, and it comes out a week from the day we're recording this. So it's
exactly.
coming out February 18th.
Yeah, by the time we put this up, reviews will be out, so we'll know quite a bit more about it. Although I'm going to be careful with reviews. I feel like I know as much as I want to know about this game at this
Yeah,
point, probably more than I want to know. So looking
I mean,
forward to it. I think it has the most room to improve. As good as Zero Dawn was,
yeah,
I think that this game is going to hit very well for a lot of people because Zero Dawn is loved, but there were a lot of critiques of that game as well, and I
mhm.
think this game has a lot of room for improvement, which generally um, works well for a sequel.
Yeah. It felt like Horizon Zero Dawn was such a unique mix of things, like the world, the themes, the storyline, the main character in Aloy. It did so many things so much better and more like it's kind of like the ideas are so compelling that makes it transcendent. It's kind of like Jurassic Park. It's like that core idea is literally so good that it can stand on
It
that
doesn't
idea.
need anything
It
else,
doesn't
but
need a whole lot more.
yeah,
And it to be fair, I think is an overall game. It was still pretty good, but there are some areas it was lacking. I think there were certain areas of the game design, the UI, that were kind of sloppy or just not nearly as good as they could have been, especially in comparing it to the industry where the industry was at. And it sucks to compare it to Breath of the Wild because they're very different games, but inevitably you have experiences around the same time that's going to factor into your
yeah,
worldview of gaming. And so I think like you said, there are some really good areas of improvement that I'm hoping Guerrilla Games has really identified, that are going to make this game probably still excel at what it was already doing, which is an apocalyptic world of robot AI dinosaurs, um, cool characters, relatively fun mechanics, really cool scenery, probably a really good plot. Um, I think some of the things I'm looking for it to do better on is like the traversal and open exploration could be a little bit better. It doesn't necessarily need to be on the level of Breath of the Wild where you can literally climb anything in any way. But I think one of the frustrating things is like trying to navigate and jank your way around things. And one of the things they've already showed in the trailer is you're going to have like a glider, right? And so
hmm
that's already an indicator that traversal is going to be better. You get to a high point, and I think one of the things I always love in video games like this is you climb the tall neck, you get to a high vantage point on a mountain and survey the land around you, and there's something so epic and gratifying about that. But then when you're like, okay, well now I have to trudge my way down a mountain, that feels a little bit too much like
it
real
takes
life.
it takes away takes
What did
away.
what did I go hiking? Like, no, I'm here to play video games. So I being able to just jump off a cliff and pull out a glider is exactly the type of thing I'm looking for. I hope they take a little further too, if like, you know, you hit certain inclines and your character should be able to run up them, but they can't, or some of those things that they're not deal breakers, but they do break immersion and they detract from the overall immersiveness of exploration.
hmm
I'm really hoping they up up their game in those areas. And I think if they make those tweaks and then hold the same level of quality with the story in the world, I think this is going to be a fantastic video game.
I agree, and I think they will. And if I had to say my biggest complaint, it's so funny that Horizon Zero Dawn is tied at the hip to Breath of the Wild, because if you put these two games on a table, they don't at a glance they don't have any business being compared to each other, but because of when they released, it's true, there's a lot of people who had a hard time with Horizon because Breath of the Wild was so transcendent in its
Mm-hmm.
traversal and exploration. I'm one of those. I played Horizon much later because I frankly couldn't put down Breath of the Wild. And every time I hopped into Zero Dawn, I was frustrated by not being able to hop up this 3-foot boulder, this invisible wall, all these yellow paintings telling me where I can climb, not being able to jump off of a high place. These are the things
Yeah.
that bothered me. Biggest critique was traversal. They've addressed it in many ways that we've seen so far, with the glider, with the grapple hook. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they haven't gone full Assassin's Creed where you can just climb anything, but they've done a decent compromise from what we've seen, where a lot of the environment is climbable and you can scan to see what is climbable. It's not all painted and
Right.
immersion breaking. And lastly, have you seen, I don't think you have, the new trailer that came out today?
Mm-mm.
At
How
the end,
shows how prepared I
what
am. No, I'm
what
not.
is no, it's all good. What is one of the let's see if this is as universal as I think it is. What is one of the biggest requests people had for the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn regarding traversal?
Oh, a variety of mounts, not just
Okay,
the one mount.
specifically
Specifically, I think flying mounts are things people were
flying
excited
mounts.
about.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Okay.
This trailer,
2 points for Zach.
it 2 points for Zach. It teases flying mounts, my man. It
Does it?
teases
Sweet.
them. It
That's been
does.
the open question.
The
Yeah.
very end. I know, and you got it. But it's true. That was like the one thing people were like, "Can we please fly?" Especially when you
Yeah.
saw the Raptors in the opening trailer, or
Right.
whatever. People were like,
Robot
"Oh,
pterodactyl.
can we
Come on.
fly those?" And for it seemed like that wasn't the case because this is a cross-gen title. They had said nothing about it. They haven't. I don't think, as far as I know, they haven't fully confirmed it. But this trailer, like, they had to know what they were doing. At the
Yeah.
end, she's like on a cliff, basically robot speaking, taming this, talking to this raptor,
Mm-hmm.
and then it goes first person, and you just kind of go off the cliff, and it's like,
Mm.
what do you think? What do you think we're getting at here? I don't
Could
know.
that be her? Like, because she's has the ability to essentially hijack these robot dinosaurs. Could that be her hijacking it and then controlling it from afar like a drone, or do you think that it more strongly
No,
implies?
I think
Right. I hope it's no.
I think the developers know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They know how big of a thing that is for the community.
Yeah,
I don't think they would have done what they did. And you'll have to watch it later and let me know what you think.
I will.
But I think we might be getting flying mounts, and I am psyched because I had given up on that. I didn't think that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It might be happening. So, anyways, greatly anticipating that game. Did you have any closing thoughts?
Just that flying mount would be amazing. I mean, my hope was that we would have just a more like the ability to tame other mounts. I kind of had. I didn't want to get my hopes set too high with the flying mount, and now they're there. But I think
Now I've
regardless,
set you up for great disappointment.
great. Regardless, I think Horizon Forbidden West is going to be a phenomenal game, and I can't wait to play it. About a week.
I know, it's insane. It feels like this game has been forever away for
Mm-hmm.
forever, and here we are, about to go pick it up in a week. Can't wait. Or should we get our review copies? Should we already have our review copies?
Guerrilla Games.
Yeah, Guerrilla Games. Where are you at?
I mean, look at our fan base. We have a handful of
Teaming.
teaming with viewer, teaming with listener.
After I
So,
watch it.
yeah, if
Okay.
you could send us 2 review copies, that'd be amazing.
That'd be excellent. We're gonna cushion Elden Ring with Destiny's new expansion, Witch Queen, the
Yeah.
Witch Queen. So, I know you and I both have a lot of history with Destiny. Quite frankly, I mean, we've been
Mhm.
playing it on and off since 2014 when it came out. Destiny 1, that is. We are currently not active players of Destiny. There's a special place in my heart for Destiny for sure, but I'm very conflicted on this release, and I don't know that I will be forking over the asking price to participate, at least not at launch.
Yeah, I
You?
kind of have a similar feel. Destiny and Bungie kind of has some similar. I have similar feelings as how I've felt in recent years with Nintendo. Although we, in our news or episode we talked about Nintendo Direct was a lot better recently, but um, there's kind of a disconnect between a really high quality video game that is Destiny and a company that continues to make anti-consumer decisions, has really frustrating pricing structures. They get in their own way of the great game they have and make it a lot harder to enjoy what should be a great experience. I know a lot of people love Destiny. I do actually do still love Destiny. It's more effort than it's worth, more frustration than it's worth, and it like the Byzantine convoluted pricing structures of like what content am I allowed to access or not access makes it hard to get into with newer players or to get back into as a returning player. So, needless to say, I think Witch Queen looks awesome. It looks like more of the things I love about Destiny. I mean, all of the lore with Oryx back from the. I think the Taken King was my favorite expansion
It's
from
a
the first
fan
game.
favorite. People love the Taken King and Oryx, and we're headed back, and there's a lot of really cool stuff happening
There's a
here.
lot of
So
connection. Yeah, that was my favorite, and there's a lot of connections. Like the Witch Queen is kind of continuing that lore of, Oryx and his siblings, and now I think Savathun, I believe,
Savathun, yeah.
is the Witch Queen. I could be wrong, but um, the lore looks awesome. Witch Queen looks super cool. The visuals of Destiny continue to be some of the best sci-fi visuals I've ever seen in my life. Destiny has the best shooter mechanics I've ever played by a pretty big margin.
It's a big gap,
So
yeah.
I imagine at some point I will play more Destiny. I'm somewhat interested, but the pricing structures and just the really anti-consumer decisions Bungie continues to make makes this a lower priority for me, especially given it's like you said, it's kind of cushioned by Horizon Forbidden West, Elden Ring. We got a lot of other great games later in the year we're going to talk about. So there's no reason to prioritize it right now. Maybe
No
I'll get around to
shortage.
it though.
Yeah, this one for me is sadness. I look at this release and I feel sad because I'm sure there's tons of content, a very awesome raid. I'm sure there's a lot of really cool things in here that I would love to experience, but I just feel so barricaded from it because of the way that they structure their pricing for their game. And I don't want to have to pay for this expansion and then find out I have to pay for an old season pass. And so it makes me
Yeah.
sad because I do want to experience the content. But for me, I guess at this point I'm holding out till I see a change in, not to overuse this word, ideology. I want to see their pricing structure change a little bit and be a little
Yeah.
bit more welcoming, and see older content become free. That would be a good change, and then I will happily
Yeah.
jump back in. So after that, we
Well,
have
first
the
that comes out February 22nd for
22nd,
anybody listening.
4 days after Forbidden West, and 3 days after that comes the aforementioned Elden Ring, which is an up and coming indie title from a developer no one's really heard of.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's going to be big.
Yeah, they've only transcended one or two genres in their short tenure.
They've only come to define one genre.
Right,
Like,
they've only paved the way for like the biggest genre evolution in the past decade.
yeah.
But um,
So, oh man, this game. Like I said, I have a block right now because I feel like I need to get through Forbidden West. But everything we see from this game continues to look transcendent and astounding. And what I'm really loving, because traversal is becoming a big thing in modern open world games. Traversal in this game looks seamless. You summon your horse, you're on your horse instantly. Your
mhm.
horse can double jump. Your horse can jump off of a
About
cliff.
time.
Yes, yeah. Why can't horses double jump? This is
Totally.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Your horse can jump off a cliff. You're fine. Your horse can jump up a cliff somehow with air. I don't know how it works, but it makes getting around the world easy. And I'm just like,
It's an Elden horse.
yes, it's an Elden horse. Traversal looks awesome. I love the fact that this is keeping the feel of a Dark Souls where you go into a castle and everything becomes narrow. Everything becomes a little more confined. It's much more that traditional Dark Souls experience. But then you go out into the world and you're you're on a horse, you're running around a giant field, maybe a dragon's coming down like we've seen in
Yeah.
the previews. You get that Breath of the Wild feeling of, hey, what's that over there? Let me go see what's going on over here. Is that a weird character? Is that a puzzle? Is there some armor I can find over here?
Oh, nope, it's a gigantic boss that's about to kill
Yeah,
me.
it's
Sweet.
a gigantic boss that looked like it was a plant or something. Like, it's just, this game looks to be a combination of um, Dark Souls and Breath of the Wild, which, I mean, we kind of thought
How
from the
could you go
beginning. And I mean,
wrong?
how could you go wrong? Well, I
Like
think there's a
peanut
lot of
butter
ways.
and jelly.
I think there's a lot of ways they could have gone wrong, and they didn't. This looks like
Yeah.
they're crushing it.
I'd say
So,
FromSoft is one of the best developers that doesn't go too far beyond their purview, but doesn't stay stale. They're really good about knowing what they do well,
yeah.
carrying a good chunk of that over, and then introducing just enough new elements, just the right new elements to refresh their game, refresh the feel of what they're doing, without it fundamentally changing some of the core things they do well. And that balance of like the familiar and the strange really, I think, hits well with their core gamers. It's probably going to expand some of the people who are interested in this. And it's masterful in my opinion. I mean, they kind of have done that with previous Souls games and
Yeah.
Bloodborne, and now I think with this.
Another thing I think they're masterful with is that I think they understand, which not a lot of developers always understand, what it is about their IP or their game that players love.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they understand what elements to pull from certain things and what to leave behind. And that's what's impressive, is you could have said, okay, open world Dark Souls. There's a lot of issues that could have come from that. But I feel like from what we've seen, they've done such a good job of knowing what to incorporate and how to incorporate it, and what to leave out, and what to not bring into the game. And overall, just, they're impressive. I pretty much trust them to make a quality game no matter what they're doing. And here's the question: Elden Ring, is it game of the year at the end of the year?
I think it has a really high chance of game of the year. I think Forbidden West does as well. I think those are the two most likely contenders in my opinion. I think Elden Ring has a shot generally. I think it has a shot for me. And I think why this is
2019 was Sekiro game of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could
So,
totally see it, and the fact that this mixes, like we've talked about, the Breath of the Wild open world-esque elements in a way that's very intentional, and not just mashing two things together without knowing why they work or how they will make a new and interesting thing. The intentionality of the right components of open world, bringing forth the right components of Souls games, and mixing those together and really crafting them, I think give this a very high shot for hitting the mark for a lot of people. And I think for me, like, I like Souls games. I've been really poor at finishing them because I've started to get better with harder video games and started to enjoy the process of getting good at difficult games. But they've been a little harder for me to get through in years past. But I've always loved the aesthetic, loved the fantasy type worlds they're set in. I love the way FromSoft does lore, and just the overall vibes that they give in their games. The tone is just off the charts, and the combat is almost always really fun. In the boss fights, incredible, great set pieces. So I think taking that and then adding open world elements of like traversal, running around fields and up cliffs, and being able to kind of jump in and out of these two modes of like exploring a vast world, a humongous map. The map looks fantastic, by the way, but being able to explore this vast map and then go into these sort of like dungeon-esque experiences. And like you said, it gets a little bit more linear, a little bit more Souls-like you're going into specific dungeons. That kind of, I think, for my style of gaming, is even better suited than previous Souls games. And I think it's going to make this a much...
I think it's going to reach a wider audience for
Yeah,
sure.
I think that's my
Okay, so
point. Is like, for
call
me
your
it
shot
will,
though.
for others it will.
Which game wins it at the end of the year?
If I have to pick one, I think Forbidden West is probably going to be my game of the year, and I'm going to call that now because I think it's going to be hard for that to be surpassed for me. But I think it's going to be neck and neck, and there's a good chance it could be Elden Ring, and I think
What
there's a
about
good
for the
chance it could be a
community, though?
tie. For the community,
We're talking game awards. Who wins it?
I'm going to call Elden Ring for the community because
That's
I feel like
that's the safe bet.
that's I think because of
I think
what they're combining.
Horizon. I think Forbidden West. I think it'd be cool if Forbidden West won, because obviously
Mm-hmm.
Zero Dawn came out the same year as Breath of the Wild, didn't have a chance.
Right.
I think Forbidden West looks like it could very well deserve it.
Yeah.
I wonder if the zeitgeist for Elden Ring is too intense, in almost a cyberpunk way, that if Elden Ring delivers, I don't know that anything will be able to compete with it this year, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
But also
I think
maybe
I'm going to
maybe a
call my
higher
shot.
bar. I don't know.
I think I'm going to call my shot and say Horizon wins it,
Okay.
but we'll see.
Let's put some money on this and
There we
we'll
go.
duke it out at the end of the
Yeah.
year.
A week later, in March, we're headed into March. Gran Turismo 7 comes out March 4th. For myself, um, very anticipated. I've played Gran Turismo since the original game. I still have Gran Turismo 1, 2, 3, and 4. Kind of fell off after 4. GT Sport wasn't my jam. They kind of went away from what I love about the series, what made Gran Turismo feel like Gran Turismo to me, which was the campaign. Looks like they're going back to it. Everything I've seen about Gran Turismo 7 to me looks like the final form of Gran Turismo 3, which I think is probably my favorite Gran Turismo. Looks awesome. I love that they're incorporating a lot of history in this game. I didn't know I needed that. I didn't know I wanted that. I'm not a big car guy. I love cars. I love Gran Turismo. I'm not a big car guy, but I think they're implementing history in this game in a very neat way, where I'm like, yeah, bring it on. Let me find out more about this make, this model, who designed this car when it came out. Like, that sounds awesome to me. It just, to me, it looks like um, the most complete package I could have asked for from a new Gran Turismo game in 2022.
Yeah. I'm excited about this one too. I am less of a Gran Turismo fan than you, I think, but I played Gran Turismo 3 a lot as a kid. That's the only one I have experience with. I really liked it. You know, at the time, it felt so realistic. You know, it was such an immersive game back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. And I liked the campaign, almost RPG-esque elements as well. Like you start with lower end cars and you work your way up as you do races. I'm always a sucker for RPG type mechanics, but it was fun. I feel like Gran Turismo always was a really cool simulator and kind of more relaxing game because it's like you're driving these beautiful tracks and courses, and I'm excited for something a little different than the other types of games we're getting this year. I also am not like like a super big car enthusiast, but I like cars a lot as well. And I've one of the things I'm excited about with Gran Turismo 7 is this attention to detail around car culture, like you've talked about, and how they've kind of made it part of the gameplay where you have like these little museum areas and cafe areas where you can go and like learn about the history of cars that you're unlocking and kind of appreciate the vehicles that you're driving and progressing through as you play this game. And as someone who's not like really put into car culture, it's kind of a nice immersive touch that when I'm playing Gran Turismo 7, I'll feel like I'm a car guy. I'll feel like I'm part of this
Yeah,
culture.
it's a great introduction.
Yeah.
I think it will be. So, I think this is also going to be an excellent palate cleanser, kind of like you said, from
Mm-hmm.
Forbidden West and Elden Ring. Um, Same day, Triangle Strategy comes out. I don't have too much to say on this one. I am a fan of Octopath Traveler. I'm probably 60% of the way through that game and need to get back to it and finish it. Really enjoyed it. I'm keeping an eye on this one. I am anticipating it. It's one I'll probably pick up later, and I'm not sure how much of my enjoyment of Octopath Traveler will make its way into Triangle Strategy. I know it's a little bit different. You got a little bit more RTS elements going on there, real time strategy combat, and but I'm curious. I'm curious to see if it lands. If you like Octopath, if you'll like Triangle Strategy, we'll see.
Yeah. I'm interested in this one as well. I didn't finish Octopath. That's also one I wanted to get back to at some point, but I liked what I played. I do like kind of it's not 8-bit, but like kind of the top down, older school kind of pixel art esque characters in kind of a fantasy world where there's RPG elements. There's generally some type of quest. I love that mix of things. So I'm interested in that. Um, I'm not a huge RTS person necessarily, but I loved Fire Emblem Three Houses, which had RTS combat. So I feel like I'd be willing to try it, especially if it's mixing with other gameplay elements. So this isn't super high on my list. I'm not going to pick it up day of, but I'll keep an eye out for sales, and if I have like some downtime, who knows when with the way this year's
Yeah, I know,
looking, but
right? If I have downtime.
maybe later this year, next year sometime, I could see this being a game I pick up at
Yeah.
some point, play on my Switch. Um, I will say I keep thinking Triangle Strategy is like some Tetris evolution type thing, and
It's the worst name ever
yeah,
conceived. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's right up there with Immortals Phoenix Rising. Like it's just it
yeah.
doesn't feel like a video game name, and it's I don't know. I wonder if that'll impact sales at all. One last thing I want to say about it, Octopath kind of reinvented that top down 2D look and what I think is now called, I think I've heard it referred to as HD 2D.
Mm.
And it's gorgeous looking. Like I don't know how better to describe it, but go look at some screenshots from Octopath. This is very similar art, same art pretty much. And we're also seeing other games kind of mimic that art style. Love it. I want to see more of it. Um, it's beautiful. It's a way that I personally have a hard time playing retro games that look like they did 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah.
30 might be a stretch, but like I don't know, I have a hard time with that. I love this HD 2D take on it. It really packages it in a way that probably feels nostalgic and hits that
Hmm.
same spot, but is digestible for someone like me. And frankly, I'd love to see a. Uh, I know we have Legends and we're kind of going the Zelda Breath of the Wild route, maybe, but I'd love to see another entry in a similar art style to Triangle Strategy. That would be
I
my
agree.
wish.
It's that kind of aesthetic, nostalgic style that's really charming, but you get really high quality like lighting and shadows, and
Yeah,
you get
absolutely.
detail on the little bits in a way that it makes it feel like a work of art. Versus, I mean, I still love some of the older games, but you go look at those and sometimes it's like, oh, this looks more like fuzzy pixels than I remember. So
Yeah, you need detail on the bits. So
that's right.
that's March 4th. Is Assassin's Creed Ragnarok? Is that November 10th?
Um, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look
You
at
put
that.
November 10th in there, but I put it in for March. So why don't you go
It
ahead and check
is.
that?
Oh no, I think November 10th was the original Valhalla release date.
Got you.
I
Okay,
don't know
so
if we have a.
in March, I think we do have a release date.
It
We can
is.
check
It
that.
looks like March 10th, according to
Okay.
a random link I just looked at. So let's say March
We
10th, and
know
if we're
it's true.
wrong, take it up
There we
with
go.
the
So
court of
March
law.
10th, we have Assassin's Creed Dawn of Ragnarok. There
It's a
we go.
mouthful.
Words. This I was okay. I found out news yesterday that has decreased my anticipation for this.
Mm.
I was low key very excited for this. I love that it's a very Norse, unapologetically Norse take, on more fantasy, not historical. Looks very cool. I did find out this is not standalone. I thought this was standalone. It's $40. I thought I was going to be able to pick this up and play this. I did not purchase Valhalla. I loved Origins. I thought Odyssey was okay, and then I just never ended up pulling the trigger with Valhalla, and here we are, a year later plus. Oh wait, is it? Has it? It's been over a year, right? Yeah, it has because they've had a
Hmm.
bunch of DLC. Yeah, more
Yeah.
than a year. Still haven't picked it up, and now I'm looking at Dawn of Ragnarok, and I'm like, am I gonna buy the base game to play this? I don't know. Barrier to entry just went up, and I may end up putting this further down the line and waiting for a full package sale.
Yeah, and I'm sure eventually there'll be something like that. I will say I played about 10 hours of Valhalla last year. I got a deal on the core game, and I got kind of bored with it after 10 hours. It felt fairly generic. The world wasn't super engaging. Combat wasn't particularly interesting. It wasn't it wasn't bad per se. It just felt kind of boring and not super engaging. And it's hard for me to pinpoint why. I'd have to go back and play a little more to try and better articulate it. But my interest in Ragnarok is kind of similarly. I'm not sure if I want to get back into that game, but I will say some of the abilities and more of the fantasy esque elements of like Norse god powers look really cool. So I'm sure that will add something to the game. But I agree that the barrier of entry makes that
Yeah,
questionable for me.
I think it's an interesting business decision too because I feel like inherently DLC sales are lower than full game sales. And so to increase the barrier to entry to something that people may have been anticipating regardless of Valhalla, I don't see why they did that. That seems odd to me. I don't know if they're thinking people who are looking forward to this will bite the bullet and buy Valhalla if they haven't. I think the number of people that are going to do that who haven't already purchased Valhalla are pretty
Mm-hmm.
slim. So I just don't really see the business reason for doing this. I think they've said artistically there's reasons why they wanted it all to be one experience, but to be determined. I take issue with it, and it's decreased my anticipation. So
Yeah.
um, March 16th, we have Tunic, which has been, what, 40 years in the making? I remember being excited
Mm-hmm.
about Tunic in 2015. So
Yeah.
I
I
don't
think
remember when
this.
it initially got teased, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, it was announced a while ago. This looks awesome from what I've seen of it. It looks like a very beautiful game, kind of that isometric view, really kind of clean, uh, not cartoonish, but almost like a clean geometric design
Stuff
to
kind of
it.
looks like foam, and I
Stuff
like
does
it.
kind of, yeah, it looks cool. It has a very, I think, kind of a distinct look to it. Seems like it pulls a lot of elements from like older school Zelda games where you're
Yeah.
kind of exploring, opening chests, using swords to cut
Think the
millings of
recent
grass.
remake of Link's Awakening. It's very
Yeah,
similar top down isometric view. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I almost worry this game has been in development for so long. It's a small team. I think it's just if not one guy, it's a couple people. Um, I'm curious to see how it lands. I'm definitely interested. I actually like the art style better than I liked something like Link's Awakening. I didn't really care much for Link's Awakening's art style in the remake. I like this a lot. I like the weird foam aesthetic that the world has for some
you're a
reason.
foam
And
boy.
you're, yeah, for those who don't know, you're a little fox, and you're running around
Yeah,
fighting creatures and assumedly going into dungeons and puzzles and chests and upgrades, and it's that kind of game. So
yeah.
looks good. March 25th, the end of March, we have Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which we've talked a little bit about on our news show as we had that Nintendo Direct this past week. My anticipation for this continues to grow with everything that we see about it. It looks polished. It looks visually distinct. All of the different areas and things you're exploring, all the abilities you get look fun. Who doesn't want to fully utilize mouthful mode? Um, it looks quirky. It looks like this year's Mario Odyssey for
Yeah,
Nintendo, and I'm on board for it.
me too. I've been excited since this was announced. I tend to love the mainline Nintendo entries, despite continually being frustrated by Nintendo as a company. And this looks like the most interesting Kirby game they've made. Again, the Mario Odyssey vibes are really compelling. Looks like a huge fun adventure in a colorful world with a lot of cool different distinct areas. And then at the end of the day, you just got to go into mouthful mode. So
Which is a mouthful in
is a
itself.
mouthful. Yeah. So
Yeah,
looking forward to that.
yeah, I think so. I think this is going to. I think it's going to hit, and I think it's going to rank pretty highly at the end of the year, especially concerning Nintendo games. So next we have the same day, actually, a game I've had my eye on. I'm a I'm a casual Borderlands fan. I've played 2 and the pre-sequel, and I guess I also played 3. I haven't put a bunch of hours beyond the campaigns in those games, but I like them. They're typically funny, good art style. And 25th, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands comes out, which is the full game spin-off of Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, which essentially I do believe is a Borderlands riff on D&D, is what it seems like, where Tiny Tina is essentially creating whatever the heck she wants to create, and you're fighting it with all kinds of guns and firepower, and this is the full game. So I'm I'm very curious about this game. Is this game I feel like could be excellent, and I feel like it could be terrible, and I guess I'm here for it to find out.
Yeah. On paper, it's a mix of things I both really like, and the premise sounds ridiculous in a fun way, like Borderlands type guns and over the top, shooting mechanics and kind of quirky, uh,
Yeah.
irreverent sense of humor paired with like fantasy elements, like you know,
You see shark people
D&D
running
type stuff,
around.
shark
Like,
people,
okay,
skeletons with
sure.
swords swinging at you, you know, all of those
Yeah.
elements sound really fun. Like I played a lot of Borderlands 1 back, you know, in like 2010. And I really liked it. I played a little bit of the second and third one. I would also say I'm casually a fan of Borderlands. The shooting was fun. The kind of the RPG drops and mechanics of the guns was, you know, pretty satisfying for the most part. Um, and I always liked the sci-fi vibe. So I'm really excited to see if they're able to nail the mix of sci-fi or
Yeah, it
like
should be an interesting
more
mix,
kind of
that's
like
for sure.
western shooting sci-fi mixed with fantasy. So again, like you
Yeah.
said, it could go either way, but it looks pretty good. In terms of like the substance of the gameplay, like is this going to be something that is mostly just like something I dip into once in a while? Is there a really satisfying campaign that I want to get through? That I'm not as clear on. So I'm
I think I'm
generally
a little
excited
bit I
though.
think I'm a little more excited about this in that I don't think that this game is trying to be what Borderlands typically is,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very confusing product where it's a single player game, except I know people who have put hundreds of hours playing as a group farming weapons, but it doesn't fully have live service elements. It's a very confusing product actually. This game looks like it's aiming to be a single player story driven experience, which I can get much more on board with. And it's got Andy Samberg voicing a character. So when I heard that, I was like, oh man, it went up a couple points for me. So we'll
The
see how
ultimate
this.
metric for whether or not a game will be
I have a
great.
box next to every game release. Is Andy Samberg in this? I
Yes.
don't get to check it very often. Excited to check that box here.
The Andy Samberg checkbox is
Hmm.
checked for this one.
One of 4 boxes. Yep. Okay. March 31st, we have Weird West. I won't spend too much time on this one. I know you hadn't heard of this until now.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very strange looking game. It actually has an art style I would describe as similar to Borderlands. It's a top down, um, isometric action RPG game. It's the best way I can describe it from what I recently saw was it kind of looks like if you were telling a story in a storybook fashion, with a lot of dialogue. It kind of reminded me of Disco Elysium in that way.
Mm.
But then there's also real time combat, and you're actually controlling a character and running around and exploding things, and you're in the weird and wild west, and it looks interesting. It's one of those indie games that I've got my eye on for sure. So we'll see how that one lands.
Cool.
April, we just got the announcement for Nintendo Switch Sports. So I'm trying to gauge how actually excited I am about this because, in principle, I'm very excited. This should have been done a long time ago. I no doubt will play it at some point. Am I anticipating it in a way where, like, I'm looking forward to the release date? Maybe not so much. I don't know. How do you
Yeah,
feel about it?
that's kind of how I feel. I'm very excited this is coming out. I am sure I'll make good use of this throughout the year. It's not this. It's kind of a different product than like Elden Ring or Horizon Forbidden West or something
Yeah, it's just
where
something we should have, and we're gonna
yeah,
have it.
it's
Like,
not day of I need to sit and experience this in its complexity. It's more like I now have the option to, you know, play badminton or play tennis on my Switch in the wacky me universe with
yeah,
friends when I want to. And so I imagine I'll start playing this here and there after it's out. I'm very excited overall. Like you said, it's one of those games that's more of like a staple that you have in the background that you jump into here and there when you're with friends, or even like you have people over and you want to do some Wii bowling, or in this case Switch, whatever the sport is. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I'm pretty excited, but it's a different type of excitement.
Agreed. The world should have Nintendo Switch Sports, and we will on April 29th. So that's kind of how I
Yeah.
feel about it. April 5th, which for some reason we had these backwards, but that's fine. Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, which also we have waited quite some time to have. We will have it in our hands April 5th, and it will be the entire saga of Star Wars as we know it. We got a gameplay breakdown a couple weeks ago, kind of showing how the game works and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. It looks like they're implementing it as good as it possibly could be done. Like, you get to select which chapter of which book you want to play.
Yeah.
and you get to play through it. All these iconic Star Wars moments with very goofy Lego layering on top of it. I've never played a Lego video game before. This will be my first, and I am looking forward to checking out what it's all about. I'm just now learning of murmur mode or whatever this is that everyone wants. Have you heard about that?
I don't know what murmur mode is. No.
They've implemented murmur mode where you go into the settings. I believe it's called murmur mode. Hopefully, I didn't get that wrong. And literally, the characters just mutter nonsense.
Interesting.
Like it's not coherent. It's not a language. It's just intonation and apparently this is like a thing in the Lego community, and everyone's like
Huh.
so glad that they implemented murmur mode, and I'm just like,
Well, good for them to
this
listening to their players.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the first time Lego person experiencing whatever. Apparently, they've done well because there's a lot of Lego games. So
Yeah, I played some of the older Lego Star Wars games, and they were always really fun. Like they they captured the kind of awesome moments of like some of the the prequel Star Wars trilogy. Like I remember, fighting Darth Maul or like going through these cool moments. But you're the cool Lego characters, and I remember playing co-op with like friends where you'd each be one of you be Qui-Gon, the other's Obi-Wan or whatever, and but you could hurt each other still. So sometimes your friend would pull out his lightsaber and just kill you, and you'd explode into a little shower of Lego pieces, and your
savage.
friend would be like, "Oh, why'd you do that?" Um, so they're just a blast. They were a lot of fun. I imagine they've just gotten more polished as time has gone on. I think having the complete Star Wars saga is really cool. I'm curious, like there's a lot of content in the sequence of 9 Star Wars movies, so curious if they're going to have to leave anything out or like how
What they
much
leave out,
actual
yeah,
content is going to be there. But in general, I don't think this will be a miss. I think this will be a lot of fun. This isn't something where I feel like day one I need to pick it up, but I will get around to it, and
yeah.
I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Although we'll see April 5th. Depends on how much we still got going on from March, but this is kind of where we're starting to see at
Yeah,
least confirmed dates dwindle a little bit. So it may or may not be a day one for me. We will see. Heading into May, we've got Salt and Sacrifice, which I'll talk about because that's mine. Um, Salt and Sanctuary, I've played. I believe you have not. It's essentially 2D Dark Souls, and once I got into it, I enjoyed it a lot. And there's a sequel to it, so I'm looking forward to that. Um, Forspoken, you added Forspoken.
yeah.
That's all yours, man. I'm not. I'm out until proven otherwise on Forspoken. I've got a lot of cringe questions about that game.
Yeah, I feel like Forspoken has a chance of falling flat on its face for sure, but out of everything I've seen, it still looks cool to me. I'm interested. So it's I'm anticipating it. I don't think it's going to be a contender of game of the year for me. I I don't know how well everything is going to land with it. Some of the dialogue or character interactions that I've seen at times felt a bit cringy, but on the other hand, some of the gameplay moments just look really cool. So Forspoken is kind of this kind of looks open world esque, like action adventure game where you're sort of like a superhero in a fantasy setting, almost like you're jumping around the landscape, like not quite flying, but like sprinting around the landscape in leaps and bounds. And you have all these different abilities and powers, like pulling up rocks from the earth or like throwing like energy spears and all sorts of cool stuff that looks neat. There's like dragons in it. And it's kind of this portal fantasy world where the characters from like our world, New York, and she's traverses over into this fantasy world, sort of like a la Narnia or something. Um, and I don't know, it has a mix of things that look cool. The visuals look pretty good that I've seen so far. It looks like it's fun to play, but again, this one has more of a chance of falling on its face. There are some cringe elements. I don't know how well all of the dialogue is going to go. I don't know how compelling the story is going to end up being. And as much as the gameplay looks fun, we won't know until we see a little bit more of it. So I'm excited for it. I don't know. It's not going to be a day one purchase for me, but I will be watching the reviews to see how it pans out. And it's something I'm hoping that I get to pick up later. And I hope it's good.
We'll see. We'll see who's right. See if I'm proven wrong, and it's a quality game. Um, we found out Mario Strikers is coming out June 10th. Mario Strikers Battle League. We talked about this a little bit in our news episode as well. I don't have too much to say about it other than it looks like a game. This is a lot of these sports games, they're games that I want to have and I want to be able to play from time to time. Um, not necessarily anticipating it in the same way as these other story driven single player games, but from everything they showed this past week, this game looks like a blast to play,
Yeah.
and it might be finally the game that Nintendo gets me to pay for their online, which I shudder to think about, but we
That'll
may
be the
be there.
day. Well, I mean, between that and then all of the new Mario Kart courses,
That's true. If we want to
I
play
think
Mario
that
Kart,
they're making a
you
compelling
know what? You
case
want to know
to get
something?
into their online.
Mario Kart, best selling Nintendo Switch game. I don't own it. I do not own Mario Kart.
I actually don't either.
I have held out. I am not part of a statistic, but with them adding the DLC, I'm
I
going to
mean, you're
have to
part of
pick
the
up.
reverse side of that statistic. It's the
I guess you're always part of a statistic, aren't you?
yeah,
Well, I'm
yes,
part of the unspoken statistic, the
yeah.
incalculable statistic.
It's much cooler to be part of
Yeah, it's
that.
much more mysterious and kind of
Yeah,
suave, and yeah. Um, but I think both of those are gonna be broken. I'm gonna have to get Mario Kart 8 with them supporting it through 2023, adding all those courses,
yeah.
and with
And
Mario
Strikers,
Strikers,
yeah,
gonna have
looks
to get
great too.
online so we can dive into these games. Let's see here. I kind of want to let me bundle up a few of these because, well, let's get through the ones that have dates. I guess that's
Yeah,
fair enough. Cuphead: The Delicious Last Course comes out June 30th. Not much more to say about that other than Cuphead was a fantastic game, fantastic art style, very well made. They've taken their time with this. We've waited a long time. Um, I'm sure it'll be fantastic, and I certainly look forward to it. I don't know if you have anything more to add.
no, it's cool. It's coming out. I enjoyed. I didn't finish Cuphead. It was very hard. I'd like to go back to it
It
someday,
was difficult.
but it was a good game. The art style was fantastic, very unique. It kind of had that has those old timey animation vibes. So I'm excited that there's more of it. I know a lot of people are going to be really happy with this.
Yeah, they killed it with the art style. I mean, they created. I mean, obviously, it was referencing an older cartoons, but in 2022, they kind of redefined the art style. They're making a TV show. A lot of people are excited about too. So,
Mm-hmm.
really capitalizing on what they did. Xenoblade Chronicles, no specific date, but they said September, right?
Right.
So we'll
Yep. They
see if
said
that
September of this
slides.
year.
Xenoblade 3. Um, I personally have never played a Xenoblade, and I'm I certainly have my eye on this one. This may be the first one I jump into. The splash trailer they showed this week looked awesome. I mean, I think for me the skyboxes and the massive set pieces that they show, scene by scene, they all just look so cool. And I've always wanted to get into them. I
Yeah.
just something's kept me away from them. So maybe I'll jump in on this one.
That's right about where I'm at. I played some of the second one. The gameplay didn't quite hold me, although I had other stuff going on. But I've always wanted to be into them. This looks like the best version of it. Again, the skyboxes are great. Some really cool creatures. Like it just looks epic, and I'm really excited to try this. And I hope this is the one that gets me all the way through it and makes me a Xenoblade fan.
Is it up to the task? We'll find out. So now we're essentially at the point we don't have a lot of dates for most things past the midway point of the year, honestly. So with these, let me go ahead and throw out a few that I don't know we have too much to say on, and if there's one you have something you want to say, you can grab it. Things that I think we're both anticipating would be Gotham Knights, Little Devil Inside, um, Somerville, Stray, Trek to Yomi, and Lord of the Rings Golem is one you throw in here. I'm less big on that. Is there any one of those that you want to pick and say something about?
Not too much. These all look interesting for different reasons. They're all TBD as to whether or not they'll land, like when they'll land this year, or if they'll be pushed. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Um, Gotham Knights, I guess the one thing is like this is another entry in the Gotham series. It's been a while since I played those games, so I'm kind of excited for them to change up the kind of the setup of the game, the conceit with these different heroes besides Batman. So you're playing as Nightwing and some of these other characters. So that should be interesting. Lord of the Rings Golem I threw in there because I love Lord of the Rings, and I feel like this is either going to be really interesting and different, or it's not going to be good at all. So I'm not predicting this will be amazing per se, but I will be keeping an eye on
Will it be better than Tiny Tina's Wonderlands?
it. Will it be better than Elden Ring? No.
Oh,
Not.
come on. Okay, for me, shout out to Trek to Yomi. It looks like Ghost of Tsushima 2D. Very cool what they're doing there. I hope it lands well. In fact, that one I believe is slated for the first half of 2022. So that one should come out this year. We just don't have an official date. Stray, man, we just don't know what that's going to be. You're going to be playing as a cat. Will it be good? Will it be bad? I couldn't tell you. Looking forward to it, I guess. And then Somerville. That one for me is a standout simply because the developers, it's the developers behind Inside and why am I forgetting? Limbo, and both are just excellent games. If you have not played Limbo and Inside, go check them out. I hope they can live up. If they can match the quality and the experience of both of those games with Somerville,
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait for that. Those guys, if they hit this one out of the park, these guys will be a developer I am officially anticipating just about anything they come out with at that point. So
I'm excited to try this.
They're on the verge.
Yeah, I'm excited to try this one. I didn't play Inside, although it looked good. I did play some of Limbo, and I just bought Limbo again this year so that I could replay it. So hopefully I can replay that ahead of Somerville and see how that is later this year.
Yeah, fantastic. Lastly, I guess Little Devil Inside, I'll just say unsure how that's going to hit. Excited about it. It looks very weird, and I just don't know if we'll know if it's weird good or weird bad till we have it in our hands. So that kind of concludes the smaller talking points as far as things we don't have dates for. And now we've got the big hitters. The big hitters, the go big or go home, if you're dreaming, hopefully these come out this year. And I want to start off with Starfield.
Yeah, I feel like there's still a lot we don't know. I think I'm more of the reason this is on this list. Starfield is an upcoming Bethesda game, sci-fi exploration. You're exploring other worlds. It kind of looks like they're taking what Bethesda does with kind of their first-person RPG elements, generally exploring some type of world and trying to immerse you deeply in it. And they're taking that in this kind of new sci-fi direction where you're exploring these other worlds in space. I don't know a whole lot about it. The trailer looks really cool. Bethesda's so hit or miss. Like, they've done some amazing things in their time. They've also dropped the ball in some big ways in recent years.
At the same time, they've done both of those at the exact same time.
So this
kind of their calling card.
This could go either way, but there's enough about it that's interesting that I'll be keeping an eye on it. That being said, we've gotten very little about what this actually is going to look like and play like, and we don't have a date yet. I could see this being pushed to next year. I'm hoping I think it's currently slated for like November-ish, but we don't really have a date, so we'll have to see.
I too am anticipating this and want to see what it's going to be because I'm big on sci-fi. If I had to pick one over the other, I tend to lean sci-fi over fantasy. And if this is a big open world RPG set in space and it's good, I'll be there. I will be there. I am looking forward to it. It just has a lot to prove to me because the hype is far beyond what we've seen of it at this point. And I remain skeptical until proven otherwise. With these 4 games, I want to play a game. Will it come out in 2022? Yes or no?
I'm going to say yes for Starfield, and I feel like I'm going to be wrong. So I don't know why I'm saying yes, but I'm going to say yes.
say no. I mean, a little insight. We're playing a fantasy critic league where you draft games for the year based on their Metacritic. You get points, kind of like fantasy football. Zach has Starfield. I counterpicked it because I don't think it's coming out. If it comes out, I might be hurting, but I don't think it comes out. I think it gets pushed. So
yeah, you might be right. But that leads us to a counter pick on your list that you picked that I don't.
Oh, you want to go there? Okay.
So maybe that's a good segue. Is Breath of the Wild 2. I don't think that's going to make it out this year. We didn't hear anything about it in Nintendo Direct, which doesn't mean it for sure won't happen, but I'd be surprised if this comes out this year. That's why I counterpicked it on your list. That being said, Breath of the Wild 2, what are your thoughts about it?
Well, if it's not coming out what is Nintendo's holiday release?
That is a good question.
What is it? I don't know what it could be.
I don't know. They
So,
tend to love to release things like, first quarter of the year though,
but
with
they've
their
got
whole
Kirby.
fiscal
Like
calendar.
I think Kirby is the early year release. I don't know. We'll
I don't
see.
know. Nintendo's
We'll
weird. It's
see.
hard to call what they're going to
There's
do.
a lot of people. I was very skeptical, but man, the rumors have been it's coming out this year still, and
We will
I
find
was a
out.
little disheartened to see no news about it this past week at the direct. But I also think, um, I think that wasn't as much as we wanted it to be. That what wanted it to be. That was not the time. I think the time will be E3 season, even though E3 is maybe allegedly dead. I think around May or June we may
Yeah.
get a big spiel about Breath of the Wild 2 and a release date. Hoping for it. What can you say about Breath of the Wild 2 that hasn't already been said, except for the fact that we're still calling it Breath of the Wild 2, which doesn't bode well for my prediction. We need a title for this game. I think the title is probably gives away a lot, and that's why they've held it close to their chest. I think they're waiting to reveal the title until we're close to release. Um, this game, unlike Horizon, I think has a lot to live up to, and I'll mention the same for a game coming up. This game, along with an upcoming game we're going to talk about, I think have the biggest room for disappointment because their original game was so perfect and so touted as an industry standard at this point that the bar is just set so high, and there's such little seeming room for improvement with Breath of the Wild. Um, I'm both greatly anticipating this and a little afraid, is
Yeah.
how I feel about it.
I feel the same way. With Horizon, I feel like the narrative can keep going in such interesting directions, and they can only improve a lot of the mechanics. Whereas Breath of the Wild, it was such a game changer, like such a paradigm shift of like what open world is and what exploration and immersion in a setting can feel like. And I'm sure they'll nail that again, but it's like we've already gotten some of that. So I'm worried, is this just going to feel like more Breath of the Wild, which is not a bad thing. But is that going to transcend when we already know and expect what Breath of the Wild is? I don't know. I feel like one of the areas I would love to see them improve is the some of the story and narrative in Breath of the Wild
Oh,
is just a
really?
little
Okay.
bit. I mean, it's not
I would have
bad. It's
said
just
my first thing I would have said combat. I want
combat.
combat to be a
I
little
could see
better.
that. I actually could agree with that too. I think with the story, I liked what was there, but some of the main plot, and this is more of a Zelda thing and a Nintendo thing, where their plots tend to be kind of like
Cyclical and the exact same
cyclical,
over and over again. Yeah.
but it makes it hard to feel
Got to save
surprised or
Peach every year.
right. It makes it hard to feel surprised with some of the developments in the plot. But beyond that, I think the plot was just kind of it was not the main focus of the game. So I'm not saying this is like a huge miss on their part. It was not what they were trying to do, but I could see a little bit more, some more compelling touch points in the plot might add to what the experience already is, in my opinion. um I think a lot of the story moments that were most interesting to me in Breath of the Wild were like random side quest type things, meeting other characters in the world, just being in the world. If you
Just
can
being
bring
in the
some of
world
that
was, yeah.
if you can bring some of that feel into some of the mainline story and make me care a little bit more about that, that could help the game be better than its predecessor. But yeah, I'm struggling to think what they could really do. I guess a some vastly different biomes, maybe. I don't know. I
Maybe.
don't know what they
I
need to do.
think
I'm sure it'll be
I think
good,
we
but
just want more of it, and I think we'll just get more of it. But I'm open to being surprised by them. We'll see. They've got a big bar to clear here.
yep.
So hopefully this year. Will it come out this year? You say no.
I think it won't come out this year.
I say yes. All right. Um, let's talk God of War Ragnarok. No official release date. They still say it's coming out this year, though. Um, again, this is the game I was mentioning. Much like Breath of the Wild, I think this game has the most to live up to
Mm-hmm.
and the least obvious improvements to make. I don't know how you improve on God of War 2018.
Yeah.
And as such, I think this game has a danger of disappointing just in the inherent nature of it will be more God of War. The one area it can truly avoid that is story. If it continues the story and it hits it out of the park,
Yeah.
then I think it'll be great. But I mean, obviously, looking forward to it. It's the original in 2018 was it's most people. It's a lot of people's game of all time. Like I don't know
Mm.
about you. Is it your number one game?
I don't know. I feel like I've never really reconciled with what my game of all time is. It's in the running. I'll say that.
It's in the discussion. And
Yeah.
so to be a sequel to that is tough. I do hope. I don't know if we know this for sure, if we've gotten confirmation. I would assume they're keeping the one cut camera. If they ditched the one cut camera, that would be devastating for me. I thought that was underappreciated, even though it did get a lot of acclaim and a lot of people said it was fantastic. I feel like it was still underappreciated for how fantastic and immersive not having any cutscenes or fade to blacks or load screens whatsoever in the game was. I hope that they do that here, and I hope other games start to do it, even though it sounds like it's quite tedious.
Yeah. We'll see. I'd be surprised if they ditched it. They tend to put out good quality games. It
Yeah, I
seems
don't
like
think they will.
I think it's going to be good. But like you said, I think the biggest risk, quote unquote, of God of War 2 or God of War Ragnarok is what it's living up to. And unlike Horizon Zero Dawn, which was like transcendent in a few areas, but kind of rough in a few other areas where it's like pretty obvious how you could make this just leagues above the first one. This one's harder because the game was such a masterpiece across pretty much every front. I guess taking the story in more really interesting directions is the obvious thing. From more of a gameplay and mechanics standpoint, I don't know. I hope they come up with some cool stuff. I'm sure it'll be good. I think it's going to be more God of War, which is a great thing. This one's tricky. My prediction is that this will not be released this year. I think this is going
Really?
to
You
be.
say no?
I think this is going to be pushed, but I don't know. Now that that's
I
been
say
my
yes.
prediction up until recently, but
I
I'm
say
kind of
yes. They already
rethinking it.
they came out and said 2021. You remember that?
That is
How
true.
ridiculous! How ludicrous was that? We knew it wasn't coming out in 2021.
Yeah. You know what?
They moved
I
it.
think
They
it is
moved
going to
it
be
to
this
late
year.
2022. I think it hits this year. I don't think they delay it out of the year.
Yeah. All right. I'm actually
I
going to
think
agree with that. I've changed my mind.
it's too late. You've locked in no for negative
This is
500
Zach
points.
editing in post. I have now.
Okay, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We're fixing to find out our last but not least game that. Oh man, am I anticipating? And I know you are too. I know your daughter is also anticipating this
Mm-hmm.
game. Hollow Knight Silk Song from Team Cherry. You can go ahead and start. You can start on this one.
This also has a lot to live up to. I think Team Cherry is up to the task. I mean, a team of what, 3 people created the masterpiece that is the original Hollow Knight.
Yeah,
And what
I
we've
think
seen with Silk Song,
two plus peripheral people, but yeah,
right? Yeah, so it's a very small team. And Hollow Knight, I think, across the board is just a masterpiece at everything it does. It's the best Metroidvania I've ever played. It's one of the coolest worlds I've ever, and most immersive worlds I've ever felt in. And it's weird to have a Metroidvania feel so immersive because it's like this weird 2D sort of vertically and horizontally scrolling game that somehow
mm-hmm.
makes me feel like I'm there. Some of the best music, the best ambiance, the lore is some of the best I've ever had. Um, I really don't have much critically to say about the
Here's my
original.
question: if there's a game out there that you have no criticisms for, what game is it?
Hollow Knight would be my pick.
There's your. So why is it not your most anticipated game of 2022?
At this point, it's mostly because I think there's 2 reasons. The first reason is because I'm not sure that it's going to hit this year. I think a bigger question mark than obviously Horizon we know is coming out next week.
I'll tell you what your other reason is.
Yeah, let's hear it. I
It's
think we have the
because
same
it's
theory.
because you're dimensionalist. This is a term I'm coining where people are dimensionalists. They anticipate 3D games more than 2D games, and it's time that we 2D games and 3D games were equal. That's how I
Yeah.
feel. So
Get your flat 2D form out of here.
yeah, no, I think there's some truth to it because I too am a critic. I have a lot of critiques of things that I even like, and I have almost no criticisms for Hollow Knight, the original. But that said, I do think that when it comes to anticipating a game, there is something inherently more exciting about a 3-dimensional world to explore. It just feels vast and there's something, some X factor to it that
Mm-hmm.
is hard to truly anticipate in a 2D game. Even though after this game comes out, Silk Song, I'm sure it will be in competition with Horizon, Elden Ring, God of War. For me personally, will it come out this year? Oh, man, this one's so tough because this one we have no information on. We have no information other than how long it's been in development. That's literally the only information we have. We haven't heard from Team Cherry in a couple of years. I think it's been, I'd have to double check. It's been at least a year, if not two, since we really kind of got an information dump from them. They've been pretty radio silent. Hollow Knight came out in 2016.
2017. I think it was early 2017.
No, it was before that. We've had this discussion. I think it came out on Switch in 2017. Can you check it?
It is February 2017.
Was the original release?
That's what Google is telling me.
Okay. All right. 5 years. It's still a long time. I thought it had been longer than that.
Yeah, it feels longer.
I feel like it's got to come out this year, and I say yes. I think it's going to come out. I think we're going to get news on it in the second quarter of 2022, and it's going to come out later this year.
Oh, I'm going to go counter to this. I want it to come out this year, but I'm going to guess that it comes out at the beginning of next year. So I'm going to say it doesn't.
Oh, that's not a bad call. We could get news later in the year that it comes out in spring 2023.
Yeah.
I could very realistically see that happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people thinking it's going to get announced and shadow dropped, which I don't see. I think this game has enough clout behind it that I don't see why you do that. I think you want to build some marketing hype and get a bunch of sales going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to say February to February, March timeframe of next year is my guess. So I'm going to say no. Although I would be thrilled to be proven wrong. I'm very excited for this game.
Yeah. I mean, there you have it. 2022 is, surely there's games that we've missed, and there's games that we don't know about that will rank very high for us at the end of the year. That always happens. But honestly, if God of War, Elden Ring, Forbidden West, and Silk Song were to all come out this year, that is going to be one tough ranking at the end of the year. My goodness, what a Goliath monumental year that would be.
Gran Turismo 7, Kirby.
Oh, I didn't even say Breath of the Wild.
Gran Turismo, Kirby, Cuphead. Breath of the Wild. You didn't.
I
say
didn't.
Breath of the Wild.
So, oh my goodness, all 5
out.
of those came out. That's going to be nuts at the end of the year. So I'm sure. I wouldn't bet all 5 are going to come out, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see at the end of the year how many of those 5 come out.
Even getting 2 to 3 of those.
We're getting 2.
Else that's coming. Right. Like I think
I wouldn't be surprised if we get 4 out of 5. I think one of them will slip, and I don't know what one it is. Mm-hmm. Do you have any other games coming to mind before we wrap it up?
That's all that's top of mind right now. Like you said, I'm sure more will come up. I'm sure we've missed stuff. Always excited to get surprised later in the year by stuff we weren't anticipating. But I think that covers, and that's a pretty big list of anticipation for a single year. So it's going to be a packed year for us.
It's going to be a doozy. It's going to be a real doozy. So that concludes our public breakdown of games that we are anticipating. If you've somehow found us, feel free to comment your most anticipated game of 2022. And don't be sad that our breakdown is over, because quite frankly, Zach and I, we are always on the verge of another breakdown. So remember, you can support us over on Patreon at patreon.com/NeverLag, right here on YouTube and wherever the heck you get your podcasts. So maybe leave us a like, comment, subscribe, or leave a rating. It goes a long way. And that's it. Thank you for joining us, and we will catch you on the next episode of NeverLag.